All right. Looks like I should be live here. Just give it a sec. Make sure it comes through. And it looks like it's taken a little while. I don't know. I just had a weird... Oh, they put a... Did they put like a... It looks like they put some kind of a link to... I guess it's just a link to the election. Thought it was maybe like one of their... I don't know. Does YouTube have community notes? I guess not. I guess they have like fact checks or something. Jesus Christ. The delay on this is insane. Almost a minute long delay. Holy crap. There it is, finally. Holy God. Yeah, I've got like a minute long delay. That's nuts. Usually doesn't take that long. All right. Anyway, as the title said, I'm just going to be going over some afterthoughts about the election. First, as I mean, everyone should know. I don't know how you couldn't know this, unless you're literally like living in a cave, in which case, you wouldn't be able to listen to me right now. So Trump won again. Kamala lost. It's not particularly surprising. And I guess they're still calling Arizona and Nevada. I'm not sure why. I think Nevada has like 90% in, and he's up by... How much was he up by in Nevada? Let's check here. I think he's up by 4. Yeah, he's up by almost 4. Not quite. Almost 4. A little less than 4. So I'm not sure why they haven't called that. But basically, Arizona and Nevada haven't been called. I'm pretty damn sure he's going to win. It would be shocking if he didn't at this point. I don't know what they're waiting on other than like a mathematical certainty that he won those. So he basically just won all 7 of the swing states, which I said before the election that was an absolute possibility that either one of them could do that. And I thought the polls were underestimating one of them. I thought that. I don't think that... So that just didn't turn out to be the case. I feel like the polls were accurate. A lot of people are running around today, or yesterday, however long it's been, a couple days, freaking the fuck out, saying the polls were all wrong again. They were so far off, and they lied to us. Who was it I saw this morning or listened to? Maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. At some point, I heard Joe Scarborough saying this, where he was like, I hate all the pollsters. They're full of shit. I think Jon Stewart did this too. And this is just a ridiculous kind of childish reaction because the polls were correct. The polls were just right. Now, what I was talking about before when I was saying, they're probably underestimating someone because of the stuff Nate Silver was saying, where he was like, saying that these polls are grouping up, they're herding together. And the evidence of this is that there's just basically no outlier polls, which you would statistically just expect there to be. So, as I said, they're probably underestimating one of them if that's true, but not necessarily. I said this in the stream, I think, the day before, or not the day before. Maybe it was the one I did a couple days before the election. I don't remember. But I made a point of saying that. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that the polls are not accurate, but if they are, they're not being accurate for the right reasons. And maybe it wasn't all of them that were herding together. Some of them necessarily must have not been. But at some point, the polls were very accurate. They basically calculated how Trump was going to perform pretty damn accurately and how Kamala was going to perform pretty damn accurately. The issue is, when an election is super close, the poll isn't going to tell you who's going to win. When the election is like within the margin of error in all of the swing states, you have no idea who's going to win. You just don't. It tells you, all it tells you is that the polls are going to be close, that it's going to be a close race in all of those places. This happened in 2022 also. People freaked out, said the polls were all wrong. Then the polls were very accurate. They were just saying it was like going to be close races, and it was. Because a poll is not going to be able to tell you within, 1 percentage point of who is going to fucking win. That's why they have the margins of error on them. And if we look at how much he won by, he didn't win in blowouts in any of the swing states. He won by like a few points in each one. And if you're going off, like, let's just say there was a 3 to 5 point margin of error, that's pretty typical usually for these polls. So let's just say we're all of them within like 3 points of the average? Basically, yes. I don't remember exactly what the averages were off the top of my head. I think what I remember seeing right before it started was Kamala was winning, I think, Wisconsin and Michigan by a point. Pennsylvania was basically tied. I think she was ahead by less than a point, and he was winning like Arizona by 3 and Nevada by 2, I think, and Georgia by 2, something like that. Maybe Georgia by 1. I don't remember exactly, but it was something like that. And if you look at the actual results we got here, he won Pennsylvania by 2 points. Okay, by 2 points. So that's within the margin of error. If the margin of error was like 3 points, say, and Kamala was supposed to win by less than a point, effectively it was just a tie, then that's not inaccurate. It was very close to what actually happened. Same thing in Wisconsin. You look at that one. He won that by less than 1 point. So the polls weren't like totally fucking wrong if they said she was winning by 1 point. That's not like, it doesn't mean that the poll was like totally fucking skewed and they were inaccurate. Michigan, let's see. He got by a little more than 1 point. We'll say 1.5 points, looks like. And so, again, if she's winning that by 1 point, that's not crazy far off from what actually happened. That's very close to what actually happened. It just happens to be that, it went the other way and he won. And I've said this before about polls. It doesn't matter. They can be accurate and not predict the winner, if you understand what I'm saying here. Georgia, let's say he was up by 2 there. I think it was something like that. And he actually won it by almost exactly 2 points. Is what he won that by. Arizona, I think he was up by 3, and he won it by a little more than 3, almost by 4. Let's see. So it looks like she got almost 4.68, so that's like 7. He won by 5.23. So I guess that's almost 5 points. Almost 5 points. So he was up by 2. If he's projected to win by 3, he wins by almost 5. Again, that's pretty stinking close. That's within 2 points. And did I already do Nevada? I thought I did. I thought she was up by 2. Now, again, Arizona and Nevada aren't done, so these aren't the final numbers, but I'm assuming it's going to be pretty close. Like in Nevada, like 91% is in. So, I mean, who knows? We could look at it later, but I imagine the gap is going to hold the same. So Nevada, it's like off by 3.5. And if he was up by 2, 1 or 2, it's really fucking close. It's within like 1 or 2 points of what it was supposed to be. So this is all just to say, don't freak the fuck out and say we can't trust the polls. They were all wrong again. They got it all wrong, and fuck the pollsters and all of this. People have been coming after the pollsters for no fucking reason. They got it right. They got it fucking right. They said it was going to be close in all of those places. All of those places were within the whenever you take into account the margin of error of what the polls were saying, the biggest gap I think we saw there was it less than 3 from what it was supposed to be? I think they were all within 2 points of what it was projected to be in each of them. So I don't know how the fuck you can sit there and be like, you can't be mad about that. It's like polls being more accurate than that. It would be extremely difficult to get polls more accurate than that. So people can shut the fuck up about that. Leave the pollsters alone. All right. So you got that out of the way. There was no real surprises of the night. It went, basically with one of the ways it could have gone. Because like I said, nobody actually knew. Because based on what the polls were saying, there was no way to really call it other than just kind of cobbling together other information and making an educated guess, essentially. The wild stuff didn't happen. Any of the people saying something crazy was going to happen, Trump was going to win in some giant fucking red wave landslide. It didn't happen. He did not win New Hampshire. He didn't blow her out in any of the swing states. It just did not fucking occur. Kamala did not, blow him out. She didn't win Iowa. It was essentially exactly what we thought it would happen. It was a super close race. The one kind of surprise was the popular vote, I should say. The popular vote. So it looks like he's won that. And that's a big deal. You haven't had a Republican win that since George W. Bush. So I guess that's actually, now that I think about it, that's not that big of a deal. Before him, though, it had been a long time, I think, since a Republican won it. Maybe Reagan did. So I mean, maybe it's not that big of a deal. I guess it's like every other time. And whenever you look at how often historically you've had people not winning the popular vote that win the Electoral College, it honestly historically does not happen all that often. It was just, we had at least a couple. We had like George W. Bush in his first election, and then Trump, and I think Bush's dad, and maybe that was it. And so it was just, we had these three Republicans really, really close together where that all happened. So I don't know. It's really not that surprising, other than, he hadn't done it before, and so people weren't expecting it. When you look at the overall numbers, this is the other thing I've seen people, the Republicans some people are going off their fucking rockers about what the takeaway is from this election. What the takeaway is about, people learned their fucking lessons, and this is a message about, this or that. I'll get to that in a second. The kind of like messaging, what the parties are going to end up doing and their takeaways. But the whole thing about like why they won, and it was the voters telling them this thing. If you go back to those 7 swing states, it was a small shift of like 100,000 voters in each of those states that determined this. So don't get carried away. And the other thing to remember is, judging by the popular vote, far less people voted in this election. And this was another thing I heard people saying that turned out to be true, which was the Democrats seem to have a benefit in like a massive, massive turnout, like historical record-breaking turnout, like you had in 2020. And then now, because of the way the voter demographics have split now, the Democrats would actually benefit from either super massive, like overwhelmingly massive turnout, or actually much smaller turnout, like less turnout. Whereas the Republicans seem to benefit from kind of the middle range, where you have either a high turnout or a little bit of a low turnout, or maybe not a low turnout, but they benefit from a mid-range kind of high turnout, like what we had this year. It wasn't mind-bogglingly big like last time. And it seems like there was like 15 million people that didn't vote this time that voted last time. Is that right? Well, no. She got less than by 15 million. He got less. So I guess it was more like almost 20 million less people voted this time. Because Donald, I think, was down by about 2 from what he had last time, 2 million. And I think she was down by like 16 on what Biden had. Which is another thing to remember. He got, less votes this time than he did last time. So there is that. That's a comforting thought, actually, that a lot of people were just essentially just sitting this out. They just said, fuck it, I don't like either of these people. That actually gives me a lot of fucking hope. It gives me a lot of hope for the future of America, that there was at least, 20 million people that were like, fuck this, I'm not doing it again. You kind of expected him to win? Yeah, I mean, it wasn't surprising. I feel like a lot of people were. It was there was people, and I don't know how much it was a partisan. There definitely is that thing where people feel like, even when what the actual stats were showing us was there was no real way of telling who was going to win. There was a lot of people on the right who would acknowledge that and then say they had like a gut instinct that Trump would win, and other people on the left would say, oh, I've got a gut instinct that Kamala's going to win. And then there's the inverse of that, there's like the doomers who are on the left, like, I have a terrible feeling that he's going to win. And the people on the right, it's like, I've got this really bad feeling that she'll win. And uh, actually, there wasn't that many people on the right saying that, I don't think. So, yeah, but there was really just no way of telling. But anyway, I'll get down to the messaging about, the takeaways each party is going to have from this. And it's not good. That's really the worst part about this, is what the parties are going to do, which kind of explains why, I ended up breaking over for Harris in the end, even though I wasn't sure I was going to vote either way at first. I hated both of them immensely. I don't agree with either of their policies, or I don't like them personally. So, I mean, Trump, I guess, is more likable than her in certain ways. At least he's funny. Like, at least he's got that going for him. And then let's see. So the parties, I think what they're going to do from this, the Republicans obviously are just taking away the message that everything about Trump is good. The MAGA movement's totally the best way forward. That is our platform now. And effectively, the conservatives have just thrown out their entire, or like 3/4 of their old platform. They just got rid of it. And it's just kind of whatever the fuck Trump wants to do, which is mostly isolationism. What is that? What's it? Is it autocracy? Is it autarky? I can't remember the exact term. Whatever. Whenever you're just like completely isolated and you want to produce everything the nation needs within inside the nation's borders, which is nuts. It's like a crazy fucking idea that doesn't work. And on top of that, then it's like, I don't know, big spending. They're the same as the Democrats on like fiscal issues, other than they're more protectionist. That might be it. And then, the border stuff, I think that's fine. I never really had that much of an issue with their border policies on the right. I mean, obviously, 20 million people are not going to be deported. Like, that's just not going to, that's completely infeasible. There's no fucking way that can actually happen. It would destroy the economy. There's the tariff stuff that, maybe try to do that, but that would fuck a lot of shit up too. And then on foreign policy, they're not far off from the Democrats. It just depends on which way they want to fuck up. So like with the Republicans, they're going to fuck up Ukraine, and with the Democrats, they're going to fuck up Israel. Both of them will, I assume, tepidly support each of those, but it's obvious that like the left was running away from Israel, just like the right was running away from Ukraine. So it's kind of a wash on that. I expect, at least I would hope, they're going to at least ramp up military spending and just strengthen the military, but barely use it. That seems to be their policy, which I would rather have that than like gut the military and not use it. That's like, one of those is better than the other. So, but I think that's going to be their messaging that they're going to take away, which sucks. It really sucks if they're just going to keep going down that road of like, we're the MAGA party now. And I was hoping to prevent that with them, because I feel like the Republicans can be changed. Obviously, their entire party was just changed effectively, historically, overnight in historical terms. Their whole party was just remade. I don't think that's possible on the left. With anything, if anything, the right has just been marching further to the middle on so many issues, further to the left on so many issues, on social issues, on tons of shit. And the left has been doing the same thing, marching toward the left, but they've gone off their fucking rockers. And I don't see how losing would make the left any better. I feel like it would just derange them even more. Whereas I thought if the right wing lost, and this was a big part of the reason I ended up breaking for Harris and going with her, was because I thought, at least if the Republicans lose, they can be improved and reevaluate themselves and kick Trump out and like go a different direction. I don't think the left is going to do that. And that's very obvious from their reaction. You're seeing from them already. There's tons of them out there running around saying the reason we lost was we were not far left wing enough. We were not populist enough. We were not like socialist and communist enough. All of that shit. So they're not learning their lesson. And they're doing the typical thing of like, oh, this was messaging. They're all pointing fingers and pulling out the knives right now and going after each other, tearing each other apart. It's like, between, Obama and Harris and uh, Biden, all these people are like at each other's throats. Reportedly, I that's what I hear. That's what the word on the street is. I don't know how true that is. I'm mostly hearing that from conservatives, so hard to say. I imagine that's true. So I just expect them to go march further to the left, especially now that they've like kicked so many of these people out of their party. People like me and a lot of like sane, rational people. People like me. Who else has left? Just over the past. I mean, Elon Musk was a Democrat. Now look what he's doing. I guess Joe Rogan was like that. There's tons of these people. Tons of these people have left them. Even someone like Anna Kasparian, you could sort of see running. I think she said she left the left, but she's still like a wild progressive. So not really. She might try to call herself a centrist now. No, she's still squarely on the left. She just viewed the left as like leftism. Hassan and Vouch think that. Oh yeah, of course they do. Of course they do. Oh yeah, that's what everyone's wondering. That'll tell us a lot about the kind of direction he's going in. Because if it's going to be like his first term, it won't be that bad. His first term was, honestly, in most ways, not as bad as Joe Biden. In many ways. I mean, the COVID stuff, he completely fucked up COVID. That was a total failure. But Biden failed in the same way on that. So it's kind of a wash there. It's really the long-term effects this is going to have that is the main problem. It's going to make the Democrats even more insane, and it's going to make the Republicans even more insane. They're both going down this horrible fucking road right now. I thought the Republicans had a chance to get off it and change lanes, but now that's not happening. The Democrats, that was never going to fucking happen. That was never going to happen. They were always going to just keep marching further to the left. Nothing is changing them on that. Yeah, well, it's the answer to that, as always, is they just go further to the left and get crazier and wackier. We weren't crazy enough. That's what they think. I mean, the thing is, when you look at it, it wasn't people like, if the takeaway the right has from this is that, yeah, MAGA was correct. He got less, both of them got less votes than they did last time. I don't know how many times I have to repeat that. But what was driving out the vote was hatred of the other one. And I don't know how long that can be sustained. Obviously, the left couldn't sustain it for a second cycle because no one on the left was excited about Biden. I don't think. Who knows? A lot of people were just mad at Trump, especially even right-wing people were pissed off at him up until just before this election. Then they started to feel bad for him again. People are trying to kill him. I mean, that's another thing with this is Trump is just like indestructible. That man has the thickest fucking plot armor of any goddamn person. It's like unreal. It's like unreal. If this was in a movie, it would be an unrealistic like writing scenario. If this was a TV show, I'd be like, yeah, there's no fucking way. This is ridiculous. I mean, think about it. He, for one thing, he was never supposed to win like the first time. And then he did. He blows her away. The second time, he's like a massive failure. Everyone's pissed off at him. COVID's destroying everything. He loses to like an old, decrepit man, and it goes out in the most undignified way possible. He's totally disgraced. He was like a pariah. And then he starts getting like all these criminal lawsuits against him, gets convicted of 34 counts, 34 felony counts. He's a convicted felon. 2 people try to kill him. He gets shot almost in the head, like grazed his ear. And then comes back and is reelected again after everything, after he inspired a riot on the Capitol. I mean, it's like crazy. It's crazy. Completely wild. And he's never going to have to. The thing is, he will never face consequences for fucking any of it. For any of it. That's the most amazing thing. Like, because he became president, they're going to throw out all of it. All of it just goes away. Poof. Like no convictions, nothing. He gets remembered as as historically significant president. All of this shit. It's crazy. He'll be beloved by tens of millions of people. Wild, absolutely wild. I mean, I'm sure he'll always be hated too. That'll probably always be a thing. But still, uh, he'll die a billionaire and he'll be a two-term happy man. It's completely amazing. After he just totally like hijacked the Republican Party and completely mentally deranged them. I guess that's the other thing with the future of the Republicans is who would come after him. It's got to be JD, right? He'll be the VP. A lot of people already like him. He'll continue carry on the MAGA mantle, unless Trump just wants to anoint one of his sons, which I don't think his sons would want to do it. They would probably be content to be billionaires. Like, why would they put themselves through the shit after having watched all the crap their dad got for it? They could just sit around and be billionaires running their company. Yeah, I assume so. And I think he'd be worse than Trump in many respects. He was like the one, oh yeah, that's the other thing I'm going to have to talk about is all the people to blame for this. All the people to blame. So the left is obviously the first ones to blame, is the left. They deserve a lot of fucking credit for this, for gaslighting people about everything, telling them that like obvious problems were not real problems, like the border, saying that that was just a made up issue. There's people, they were saying this. They were saying the border is not an issue. That's not a real problem. It's not actually happening. That's a conservative talking point. Lots of people on the left were saying that. It was so obviously bullshit. You could see it with your own fucking eyes. You could see it in the numbers and you could see it with your own eyes. And it was just like, are you people fucking insane? Like, all I have to do is click onto the internet or click over two channels and I could see a reporter there on the ground showing me what's happening. I can go look at the statistics coming in and see what's happening. I could look at the policies that you put in place. It was so goddamn obvious. The same was true with with crime. That was true. No, it's not a fucking issue. Yeah, it's just not fucking happening. Homelessness, lots of shit like this. The inflation at first, they finally like acknowledged that was happening, and with the gas prices and stuff, didn't do anything about it. There wasn't a whole lot they could do. I mean, they would have to do stuff that Democrats will never do, like stop spending, stop spending gobs of money. Like, this is not the time for that. Do stuff to don't. This is also not the time. That was just not the time to start pushing a bunch of like Green New Deal, like fuck up the oil industry bullshit. And honestly, most of that was, I don't know how much it was about the stuff they did versus just their rhetoric, just not made people not want to invest in fossil fuels. I don't know how much of the combination that was. Plus, the war made everything worse in Ukraine, and then there was Afghanistan, which I'm not even going to get into that. They did try to gaslight us on Afghanistan too, but no one was buying that. That was just the administration. The other stuff, it was all the media and regular people just totally bullshitting you. And the one that pissed me off the most was when they came out and tried to seriously argue that Ron DeSantis would be worse than Donald Trump. The media was saying this. They were going savage on him. Do you remember this? They were saying he would be so much fucking worse. Oh God, we could never have him. That man, oh God, look at what he did during COVID. He had one of the best responses to COVID out of any governor that there fucking was. He handled it brilliantly. Look at the way he handled the fucking hurricanes. He's fantastic. And then what was their issue? The don't say gay bill thing. Totally made up. It was nothing to do with not being able to say gay or talk about gay people or fucking anything. It was basically a bill that said, don't teach a lesson plan about neopronouns to kids in fourth grade and under. That was it. Don't teach sex ed to people in fourth grade and under. That was the stuff that was in that bill. Oh, and they lost their minds and just lied to me and to everyone who's made shit up, and probably helped Trump win the primary. Now, he probably would have won it anyway, but there was a lot of people on the left who outright would just tell you, like, oh, yeah, it's I think it was pretty obvious. They thought DeSantis would have a better chance. Now, people on the right were saying, no, Trump would have a better chance. That's why we've got to elect him. He's the only one that can do it. That was horseshit, too. Any Republican any Republican would have won this, and any other Republican would have won it by more. That's the fucking truth. And probably the same is true for the Democrats. That's the other side we can blame for this. Well, I guess I've just been blaming the Democrats almost totally because it is totally their fucking fault, as always. But let's see. Biden for not dropping out. Not dropping out. They could have had a primary, could have got someone better. I said it all along. I said the only people that could probably lose to him were Biden and Kamala because they both suck. Biden was, maybe if he was younger, he probably might have could have pulled it off, but he fucked up so many things. There was just no way. And she was part of the administration, so she was saddled with all of that baggage. There was just no way you can fuck up this bad, this massively on so many things and expect to be reelected. You can't expect to be reelected on like, oh, well, look at Trump. He was bad too. He was bad too. People are too dumb to remember stuff that happened 4 years ago. like that is not something they're going to fucking like that is just not going to happen. They're not going to remember, oh yeah, he was shitty during COVID. Well, okay, COVID's over. So now what? They just don't remember that shit. And then, yeah, they could have had someone else. They could have had someone else come in. And maybe the other Democrats, it wouldn't have worked either, but I think they would have done better. It might have been people were just too pissed off at Democrats and the left as a whole. Now, I think the thing to remember is I don't think that a lot of this was people, that there were so many people switching. It definitely, that was some of it. Some people, I'm certain, switched, especially in the swing states. That's where the real arguments were being made. But like the stuff with the popular vote and in other stuff. So I guess it is mostly people being pissed off at them. But it could also just be a lot of people just didn't vote who voted last time. A lot of people were just like, fuck these guys, fuck them both. And they just didn't vote. I'd have to check and see if that held true for the swing states. I know that's true overall. What do we got here? And then blaming it all on everyone being sexist. Yeah. Well, I don't know if that could that might be true. I don't think it's I don't know if it's that people are sexist, but we still haven't seen a woman win yet. I will say that. I don't know if it's that there is like a built-in disadvantage because I don't know how many people you talk to. I know quite a few people who would just never vote for a woman, just straight up. I had a woman tell me that. A completely like out of nowhere, we were having like a casual conversation. It was someone I was working with at the time, and she just said, "Yeah, I just don't think a woman should ever be president, or should be a leader or something." I think is what they said. And then shouldn't be the president. I don't remember how that conversation even came up because it wasn't during an election cycle. But yeah, there's tons of people that think that, so it definitely could be. Could be a factor. I don't think it's decisive. I've said that before. I said that when Kamala was first starting to run. I was listing that as one of her potential negatives in a close race, is that there are people that will say, "Yeah, I'm not voting for that." It could be since it was pretty close, could have been a factor. I don't think it's decisive though. I think if they had a successful administration, if they were successful and things were going well, it wouldn't have mattered that Joe Biden was like virtually brain dead. They could have just ran him and been fine. It wouldn't have mattered how much shit he fucked up or how old he looked. No one would give a fuck if things were going well. And Trump's gotten so lucky, never having like going on again about Trump, how he doesn't have to like ever face consequences for anything. All of his criminal, what would it be? Like trials and shit, and his convictions and all that will just disappear. But on top of it, politically, he doesn't have to face any repercussions for anything either. I mean, I guess you could say he had a repercussion from all the shit about failing with COVID and stuff like that because he got voted out once. But being voted back in for a non-consecutive term is almost even better because then he didn't have to put up with any of the fallout from his actions during COVID. Like inflation, I've said this before, would have happened anyway. Like that would have happened. It happened everywhere in the world. And he was doing the same stuff Biden was doing, even on the way out. Remember this, on the way out of office, he was arguing that they should be giving even more money to people. Okay. I don't know that he was he arguing to even start opening stuff back up again? He was like giving Fauci like a presidential medal of freedom and stuff. So I'm pretty sure he was still like okay with all the lockdowns and shit. So yeah, the inflation would have happened no matter fucking what. That was an aftershock of COVID, and him and Biden didn't really have different COVID policies. So you know, there is that. He didn't have to deal with any of that because now the economy is probably going to start recovering. It already has started to some extent, hasn't completely recovered, but they had a soft landing essentially. The recession didn't really happen, so yeah, they got out of it. Things sucked for a while. Inflation was high, and it kind of sucked, but looks like it's kind of coming back around. And then what else? He didn't have to deal with the fallout from Afghanistan. He wanted to pull out of Afghanistan. He never had to deal with that. He never had to make. He says now, well, I never would have done that. It wouldn't have happened that way if I was doing it. That's easy enough to fucking say because you didn't have to do it. He didn't have to fuck. That was going to happen. The Taliban was going to come back, no matter fucking what. No matter what. Now, maybe the one thing that's true is that he wouldn't have. No, he would have had to leave all the weapons there. Is he going to send troops back in to get our equipment? No fucking way. So yeah, that probably would have happened too. Doesn't have to deal with shit, any of the consequences for what he did. It's amazing. But I think I got all that shit off my chest, so I'll probably be wrapping up here. I don't know what our other takeaways would be. You're saying gay again, folks. Yeah. America just doesn't like democracy that much. No, I mean, I think they're fine with democracy. It just less people. I think part of the reason less people voted is just because it wasn't during COVID. I think it's two things. During COVID, what else are you fucking doing? They're sending ballots to your house. Everyone's voting by mail. Why not? And then I also think, people just didn't like either of them. They were both less popular than these might have been the least popular candidates in history. I'd have to go check. I mean, obviously you couldn't do it based on the vote. You would have to look at their favorables. And they both had less than 50% favorables, right? I guess hers were higher than his. And he still won, which is a really kind of bizarre thing. Usually that doesn't happen. But neither of them were very popular. People don't like these guys. It baffles me when I meet people that actually do like Kamala Harris, like they're a big fan of hers, or Donald Trump. I think there's more of the people with Trump, but it's his thing. I've harped on that before. He's like a bizarre cult leader. DeSantis lost the stream, lost steam because he was a Riz black hole, but he still would have won easily. Oh yeah, he would have won easily. People said his personality was weird. Yeah, I don't know about that. I guess could be. He is kind of. Here's the thing about DeSantis. He's really good at doing the job, which should make him popular, and it did in Florida. He won by like 20 something points, but getting people don't like his personality, which I don't understand. I don't have an issue with him. I don't know. Maybe I have like personality blindness disorder or something. I just hear him talk. He just sounds kind of fucking normal to me. He has a kind of a weird voice, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. He seemed to handle himself well with reporters. So I don't know what the deal is with that. But I have heard people say he's not very good at campaigning. He's just good at like actually governing, which I think is true. I agreed with most of the stuff he did. The anti-woke stuff I thought was fantastic. And then just the way he was generally a good governor. His foreign policy, I don't really know. Probably wouldn't have been as good as I would have liked, but probably not as bad as Trump. It would be hard. First Biden debate. Holy shit. Oh, yeah. Yeah. United States of amnesia. It's true. I don't think it would have mattered. I think the only place he might have helped was in Pennsylvania. I think if they had a primary and Shapiro had won the primary, he could have won. I think he would have been a good candidate to win. I don't know a ton about him. I'd have to see it like actually happen. So he's just someone I've seen a little bit of and know a little about. So I think maybe he might have been a good candidate to replace her at the top of the ticket. if Trump was reelected, he would have done the exact same shit in Afghanistan. Oh, yeah. For U.S. isolationism, it's not a mandate, in my opinion. This just wasn't. It was a very close election. I don't consider it. It was an electoral college landslide, I guess you could say. But every single place where you had that happening, it was a close race. It was just like last time, except less people showed up to vote. And instead of it just slightly going for Biden each way, it went for Trump. The margins weren't quite as small this time as they were last time, but they won all the same states, and the margins weren't significantly different, I guess is what I would say. Didn't seem to fucking matter that much. In fact, I think he beat. Yeah, I'd have to go check on this. I think he's beating her by like 4 or 5, and Biden beat him by like 8 million. So, on the popular vote anyway, it's the gap is much smaller. I'm not going to go through and look at every single one of the little states and figure that shit out, but vice presidents generally lose elections. That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. George Bush's dad, Bush Sr., he won. He was VP. Who else? Yeah, I guess Gore lost, and Kamala, and I don't know. I'd have to go back and through history and take a look at that. Well, it seemed like there was something else I was going to say just on the way out. I forgot. Oh, yeah, the foreign policy stuff. What do I think he's going to do? I don't think it'll be that bad. It's like I said earlier, I think the short-term stuff is not going to be so bad. It's really the long-term effects of this that I think are going to be terrible. And it has to do with what it does to our political parties. It just deranges them both even worse, in my opinion. The left wing continues to do its crazy, wacky, progressive nonsense, woke nonsense, goes further down like socialist rabbit hole. And Republican Party stays MAGA. I think they stay MAGA until they start losing. I think eventually, the MAGA movement is going to be around forever. That's just going to be an aspect of the Republican Party now. I think they can be shoved to the side, kind of like libertarians are in the party, and the neocons and stuff like that. But I think you're always going to have this element that is trying to make this like protectionist, isolationist, populist argument within the Conservative Party. I don't think it can last. I think it is unsustainable for them. I don't know how much they'd have to lose like for that to. I guess the other problem with that is I don't know who's going to carry that forward. Like JD would probably be the best one, so maybe he can win it out and take it forward for another like couple terms in office. But I just don't know. And maybe by that point, you would start to have like conservatives coming up under that, which is, I guess you're already starting to see now, MAGA conservatives rising up and replacing the more old school conservatives that believed in like, fiscal responsibility and stuff like that, hawkish, aggressive, strong foreign policy. And I don't know, more social conservative stuff. Because he's thrown out tons of that kind of crap. But we'll see. Only 2 incumbent presidents have won with their VP, Van Buren, H.W. Bush, Nixon, Biden. Oh, yeah, Biden. Biden was a VP. That was the other one I was thinking of. Yeah, okay. 2032 election. Yeah. Potentially. We're headed that way. That's the direction the country's headed right now. I would like to think the best case scenario is that the Democrats would like take an honest look in the mirror and be like, you know what, maybe we shouldn't gaslight people and lie and do all this woke crazy bullshit and actually change and actually return to like, a Bill Clinton type Democratic Party. Maybe they take up like, the mantle of fiscal responsibility, since neither of the parties is doing that at the moment. Maybe they want to do that, be the small spending, small government party. I fucking doubt it. I fucking really doubt it that they're going to do any of that shit. And I don't know. Like it's just it's baffling to me. But we'll see. You're reactive to unknown. Yeah. Yeah, that could be. Someone has been watching. Yeah. Well, anyway, I think that's all I got. I don't think that they are going to learn their lesson. The Democrats, I think they're going to just go further down. I'm starting to repeat the points at this point, sort of summarizing. But I suppose that's all I have. I don't know what the next thing would be. Oh yeah. How the left is going to respond to this. So far, they've been taking it really well, actually. If you look at the commentators and the concession speeches from them and stuff like that, they've been taking it pretty damn well. Better than you would expect. Which just goes to show, they did not actually just add to the list of things they were lying about. I didn't even mention this one, all the slander and smears on Donald Trump, which were totally unnecessary. Like there wasn't enough for you to talk about that was real and true. You had to make up a bunch of bullshit. Like why did they do that? Like why are they like, oh, he's gonna be Hitler and he's gonna like do concentration camps and blah blah blah. Like why the fuck? There's so much real shit you could talk about with him. You don't have to go that fucking far, man. You don't have to you don't have to say he's gonna be like the next Hitler or like he's a fascist and whatever. You could say he's authoritarian, that's kind of undeniable. But to go all the fucking way and just be like, the fear mongering craziness was so over the top, lying about stuff that he said over and over, just crazy. There's no need for that. But yeah, now they're coming out like, oh yeah, we need to accept the results of blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. But I do think there is going to be a backlash because I said there was going to be like, something happening. Whoever won, no matter who lost, no matter who won, the other side was going to flip their shit and go nuts. I still think that can happen. It's just not the leadership doing it, at least so far that I've seen. I mean, there's been your basic kind of meltdowns. People are angry or whatever, but it's not like 2016. I don't think I haven't seen it, at least haven't seen the clip of Van Jones crying live on CNN going around. So I think people were kind of ready for it. They were expecting it. We'll see. But I do think you're probably, it won't be until his, the day he's actually put into office. I think when that happens, once he's actually sworn in, on the day he's sworn in, I think you could see riots again, and they would probably be worse, I imagine, from the same types of crazy batshit people going nuts in the street. I doubt it would be anything like January 6th, and you're not going to have the leadership of the party like egging it on like the way Trump did. If that's something like that is very unlikely to happen in my view, but you would, I do expect there to be like riots and people doing a lot of stupid shit. Maybe even small acts of violence, like with the assassination attempts and shit. Maybe you'll see more of those. That might keep happening. Hard to say. But with how much they stirred the pot and fear-mongered about him, there's just no fucking way that there aren't like millions of people out there that actually believe that stuff and think that we're headed toward like, the end of the democracy. So many people were saying that, like big, commentators on cable news and people leadership in the party and all those people were saying that there has to be millions of people that actually buy that. Some of them are going to do something stupid. I feel like it has to be. I mean, they already have, honestly. Like that's probably what was going on with the assassination attempts. Now, I don't know. I don't know that we found out that much about those or the motives yet, but I feel like undoubtedly that had to be a contributing factor. Anyway, those are all my final thoughts. We'll see what happens over the next couple months, see if there are any riots and see what goes on. There were people saying that they cheated. I did see that a little bit, but it's not coming from, again, the top. This is just like a bunch of people on Twitter. Half of them are probably Russians. So, like, who the fuck knows? Anyway, I guess I'll talk to you later. So have a great night, guys. See ya.